Hi there, I'm Wes Gollum, the energy geek with Sustainability Matters, and today we'll be talking about community power with Bob Hayden, president of Standard Power. Around a year ago, the state of New Hampshire joined 10 other states approving a community power law. In a nutshell, what this does is it allows groups of people to get together and purchase greener electricity at a less expensive rate. New Hampshire's electric rates are among the most expensive in the U.S. Community power is a way of getting both less expensive power and greener power. This video will be of interest to anyone wanting to purchase less expensive and greener energy or wishing to start a similar project in their community. If you're a fellow resident of Deerfield, this will be of particular interest to you because we have formed a community power committee here in Deerfield and are working with Standard Power in hopes of providing a less expensive and greener electricity option. I'm here with Bob Hayden from Standard Power, and we're going to talk about his community power projects. Hopefully our community power projects.
Well, I hope that too, Wes. We're pretty darn busy right now with community power. It's a pleasure to have finally gotten this program to take off. Standard Power and a variety of other entities have been in the legislative process for years to get this approved. And on, I believe it was August 26, 2020, Governor Sununu signed the bill, HB 315, that enabled the law for community power. That bill was kind of a magical event because it was a very rare occasion where all parties agreed on something here in the New Hampshire legislature. Republicans, Democrats, and all of the stakeholders like Standard Power and other entities, Freedom Logistics, and everybody agreed in the end. And that was hosted by Mike Vose. He did a great job. And so we're very proud that we're one of the first entities to launch any community powers programs here in New Hampshire. The first 4 towns that we launched are Keene, Swansea, Marlborough, and Wilton. They grouped up as a package that represented about 100 million kilowatt hours of residents only, or primarily residents. There's probably a few small businesses in there because they're eligible too. And the way community power works is a committee develops a plan with the assistance of a consultant, and we are a consultant that does that. That plan is presented to the legislative body in the community. So for towns, it's typically the select board, and they approve it. The likelihood is, and the expectation is that that plan will save a very lot of money over the utility that serves the community. But it only saves money on the supply, the actual electricity cost, because the utility continues to deliver the power. They continue to service the wires. They continue to be there for you when a pole goes down or a tree falls across the wires. They're still there. Matter of fact, you still get the same bill from the utility and only one line changes. Wes, are you in Eversource territory or Unitil?
Personally, I'm in Eversource.
Okay, so Eversource right now costs a dime to deliver. That stays with the utility. The supply cost is 20.221 cents per kilowatt hour right now. And that's a pretty high number. That group of towns that launched around Keene, their rate for power that's more renewable, 10% more, is 11.47 cents per kilowatt hour. So over 8 cents less than the utility. And that's the expectation, is that there'll be great savings. But even better than that, we have one of the optional projects that somebody can choose is 100% renewable at 13.9 cents. Now remember, Eversource is 20.221. And they're delivering a product with the RPS requirement. The RPS requirement is the Renewable Portfolio Standard. That's a law here in New Hampshire. That law is occasionally modified. And at this time, that law says that the minimum amount of renewable it has to be in every kilowatt that's delivered over the utility wires is 23.4% renewable. So that represents hydro, wind, solar, and biomass. They're all eligible to participate in that program. But for our general product, the one I mentioned that's 11.47 cents, we add an additional 10%. So it's 33% renewable. And when we work with a community as their consultant, we help them do everything they need to do. Because usually as a committee of town members, it seems a little daunting. So we have a program, an 8-step program, 8 meetings, to do everything. And we will do everything for a community if that's how they choose to work. And we understand that. You know, working people with not a lot of time are donating their time to make a program work for them and their community. And we're very proud of everybody who will do that. And then there's some committees that are highly energy and have lots of people and lots of time and want to do everything too. So in those cases, we work with them and make sure that the guardrails are up so that they follow all of the legislative processes, make sure they comply with all the laws, and put together a plan that the PUC, this is a requirement, the PUC will approve. So it does require PUC approval of the finished plan. So again, we'll do all the work or none of the work for a community, but a committee is required to put it together. So we are now delivering the first 4 towns. We have another group of 8 for the fall, and we just added the town of Derry. So they'll all probably, Derry plus a bunch of other towns, including here in my neighborhood, New Boston, Jaffrey, and Milford. So those towns, along with some other towns in the western part of the state out towards you folks, will all be going in the fall for community power. Oh, and that included in that batch is Waterville Valley, which I mentioned in our last video. So they're up north, and they're a great little community. We're going to try to put in some wind power up there. And that's a nice experiment that'll be part of their community power plan. The nice thing about these programs, it allows us to do community renewable projects that can be part of the power delivered. In addition, if there are older projects in the community or around the community, we'll go out and try to buy the renewable energy credits so that community members can point at their own projects in their own community with pride, knowing that they're supporting renewable energy. So that renewable energy certificate is the embodiment of the green element of any energy. Renewable energy credits were part of a move by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, about 25 years ago. And what they did is they decoupled the actual electricity and the greenness and made 2 separate markets for each, or 2 separate markets out of the 2. So there's a renewable energy credit market, and the purpose of that market is on a state-by-state basis. The payments that are made into that program by buying renewable energy certificates is intended to fund the proliferation of future energy projects. So with that in mind, every time you buy one of those certificates, you're helping the next project go into force or become reality. So that's the program, and in most towns, when we do our surveys, because in the community program process, Standard Power uniquely amongst the competition does a survey of the community asking what folks want. And it's interesting because it has a very normal bell curve. That bell curve says that 15% of people want the cheapest and don't care. And it says 15% of those people want 100% and don't care how much it costs. That's me. I don't care how much it costs. I want 100% renewable. That's why I live in this house we're looking at right here with 115% of the solar. We really need to power it. So we do that survey. And then the bulk of the bell curve is made up of people who say they would like to be greener but still want to pay less, and they want to be greener and might pay a little more. So that's the bell curve we get when we do these surveys. So we know what the voice of your community is for your plan. And that data gets embodied in the plan that is put together by Standard Power and your committee and presented to your group leadership. After that, it takes a couple of months to implement and get approval by the PUC. And then within another couple of months, we're down the road with lower cost electricity and more renewable energy part of it. That's community power. I hope you get going on it.
From my perspective, also being a owner of solar on my roof, what happens to my net metering?
That's a great question. And our utilities are not ready to help us answer that question yet. but we're working very closely at this time with Eversource. We're spending a lot of time with their technical folks on how to make that a more automated and a succinctly choosable conversation. Right now, Standard Power has hired a bunch of extra folks so that we can give personal service and personal consultation to every net metering customer. So it takes a little bit of time, but we ask a few questions so we know how to direct people to what the best solution is for them personally for their program. Because they're all a little different. There's always a little different ratio of how much power is made versus how much is used at the household. And then there's two different programs. There's Net Energy Metering 1, which is set 2017 and prior, and Net Energy Metering 2, which is 2017 after 2017. So those programs each have different solutions. They have a different set of questions we ask. And again, we give individual consultation to everybody who has one of those programs. With Net Metering 1, the answer is virtually always join the program. Join Community Power 2. With Net Metering 2, it's probably 30% join the program and 70% you will take a monetary hit if you join the program. So if the monetary element is most important, we will suggest that you stay with your net metering and stay with the utility default service rate. If your answer is the most important part to me is being more renewable and I don't mind losing a few dollars out of my net metering credits, then we'll encourage you to join the plan and we'll encourage you to be in the 100% group that has 100% renewable energy.
And now I'll put my energy committee hat on for a second.
Oh, okay.
We're trying to get several smaller projects. We're going to start with, anyway, individual projects, on the school, on the town buildings.
Yeah.
How could that integrate into the Standard Power model?
In relationship to community power, if we're looking at individual projects, we would look at each one individually and determine what's best for the community and the long-term goals of the community. Doing small projects is a great way to encourage and endear yourselves to your community and get community buy-in, and for folks to be able to point at projects in town and say, and that's the start of the energy future we're going to have. So do everything and be ready for everything.
Thanks. Since Bob Hayden and I spoke last week, the PUC announced the rates will drop in August through January 24. I wondered if this would have an impact on community power, so I contacted Bob and asked him again. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, the utility rates go up and down every 6 months. And as you might know, they buy their electricity on a 3-day window twice a year. The new rates go from August 1st to the end of January. And Eversource got lucky, really. The market's been very low. The electricity market in the New England ISO, which includes New Hampshire, is largely based on the fact that most of the time we use more than half of our electricity that comes from natural gas. So the cost of natural gas right now, or the day Eversource bought, was about $2.35 a decatherm. And even now, in the last few days, at this moment, if I look at the chart, natural gas has already gone up to $2.76 per decatherm. So it's already gone up 17% in the few days since Eversource transacted. So if we bought electricity, if the utility bought electricity today, it'd be much closer to 15 cents. So it really is kind of a roll of the dice, because they buy electricity in 2-3-day windows for 6-month chunks of electricity. When they announced that rate, they said they thoroughly expected for it to go back up to a higher rate on their next buy. So when we talk about community power, we're talking about several things. We're talking about lower rates, price stability, being able to depend on what your electricity bill is. And for most people, from our surveys, statistically 61%, they want more renewable energy too. So we're delivering the things that people want. We are delivering a lower rate. Virtually all of our options are still lower. They do provide more renewable energy. They do provide price stability.
So those are all very positive things that community power can do right off and will continue to do into the future.
Thanks for watching. The survey described in this video was sent to Deerfield residents as an insert in the Dooryard Gazette. It will also be available on the town website and town Facebook pages. Please complete and return it. Thank you.